Hello and welcome to Bathroom Plumbing and Fittings Tutorials. I've just been called out on the job where the lady's got a leaky toilet. There's a drip on it. I've had a quick look now. I've got a rough idea where it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and show you hopefully a very quick fix for anybody who's got the same sort of problem. The toilet is just down there, as you can see. I've set my phone up to give it a little bit of light. But hopefully you can see there's a drip coming from the elbow. The lady's put a pan down there to catch it, which is very sensible. But it's quite a big drip. That pan would probably fill up in about 4 hours. So there's a couple of places it could be going, but just so as you see, that's the feed, the cold water feed, which goes up into the cistern, and that's feeding this ball valve here. I'm just going to engage the ball valve, which we can see is working. And hopefully you can hear that it's shutting off. So the ball valve looks fine. So there's only 2 places where the leak can be coming from. Okay. The first one, if I'm just going to turn this camera upside down, hopefully you can see that is actually an isolation valve. If you can see that slot there, it could be coming from the isolation valve, but also what I'm going to do is I'm just going to test this top section here just to see if it's wet. Hopefully you can see that. That's wet. You can probably see that on my finger, which leads me to believe that the leak is coming from here. In fact, it's absolutely soaking wet. It's coming from the thread. It's dripping down here and dripping off there. It leads me to believe that the isolation valve itself is perfectly functional. So I'm going to test that now. Okay, here's a bit that I want you to see. There is the cross thread here. If you need to look at how to turn off an isolation valve, there's a separate video. Just have a look on my channel. But hopefully, if I could get the... It's quite hard working in this sort of area, but what I need to do is get this screwdriver into the groove, and I'm basically going to turn it so it's perpendicular with the valve. Now that should be off. Now there's one very quick way of telling if that's done the job or not. Just excuse me, I'm trying to work the camera with one hand. I'm just going to get a little bit of the toilet tissue and just dry this here. Okay, now that's already told us one thing. That's told us that it's not actually the isolation valve itself, because that's stopped dripping. That's actually isolated it. So it leads me to believe the bit that needs to be repaired is actually this part here. Now I'm confident that that is isolated. Going to take my grips and just undo this thread here. It's very loose. I can now probably do the remainder with my finger, which I can. There it is. I'll just give you a closer look on that, but I can actually see that the washer looks in pretty good condition. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of compound in there and a little bit of PTFE tape, which I'll show you what that is now. Down here I have my compound, jointing compound, and right here I have PTFE tape. So this is really going to be quite a quick fix, particularly if you don't have a new washer in there. Having said that, I think the washer looks in pretty good condition. This is the compound. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some of this compound onto my finger, which I'll show you in a second, and I'm going to basically smother that into the groove there. And once I've tightened that, that will actually seal any leaks, but you can also do it with PTFE tape. Okay, I've taken it apart and I can actually see that the washer here, which I've taken off of this section, is in perfect condition. So I'm going to do a couple of things first. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of my compound, which I showed you earlier. It's on the end of my finger. I'm just going to push it down into this groove here, which is going to help that thread ever so slightly. Now, I've not put it on every single section, because when I tighten that, it's actually going to start to work its way around. What I'll do is I'll lift this up and hopefully give you a little view. It's quite hard to get the camera into there, so let me just try and pull this down. Please excuse it. There's a little bit of compound in there which you can see. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some PTFE tape, which you saw earlier. And I'm actually going to wrap this around on the spindle. Again, that's just going to give something for the washer to sit on and create an extra seal. So really what I'm doing is creating 2 additional seals. I'm just wrapping that around there, and now I'm just going to break that off. It breaks off very easily, just like so. I'm going to wrap that around. It's actually come off slightly. It's very, very fiddly, very hard working in such a tight, confined space, but you don't really have a choice. And there you go. So, the PTFE, which will hopefully give you a little bit more light on it, is now, hopefully you can see that, wrapped around the top there. Now, the next thing that happens is I'm going to place the washer back on top, and that's going to sit on top of the PTFE tape. There's the washer, hopefully you can see it in situ there. Now I'm going to sit that inside it, push it up, start to tighten it, more so I can push it down than anything else. So just so as you can see, let me get my hand this way, I'm tightening that up there. That's going to push the washer into place, which it is. Hopefully you can now see a little bit better. The washer has now been pushed down, and that is inside the thread of that nut. Okay, just finally, now before I test it again, I'm going to put a little bit more gunk right into there. So this is really what will be known as belt and braces, which goes into the groove. And into the cavity. Just going to clean my hands up. It's quite messy stuff. It's obviously meant to repel the water. And there it is there. Basically that nut I'm now going to push back up into place. I'm going to start to tighten it. Very important at this point to make sure that it's not cross-threaded. Okay, what I mean is when the nut is being tightened up on top of there, that it's not at an angle. Reason being, this is what we would call a plastic shank. If it was metal, we wouldn't have to worry about cross-threading it so much, but obviously we're putting a metal nut onto a plastic thread. It'd be very easy for it to cross-thread. So anyway, so I'll just give it a tighten up. And what that's happening now, with any luck, is that we're pushing all of that PTFE tape and all of that compound all into place. Right, I'm just going to tighten that up and then we'll test it. Okay, that nut has been fully tightened now, so which really leaves us only to, if you remember, we had the slot underneath, and that only really leaves us to turn that on and see if we've got a leak. I guess if we do, we'll know about it because I'll have a very, very wet camera. So remember, that was perpendicular Excuse me, I need to get that in it. So just remember, that was perpendicular. I need to turn it so it's in line. Okay, initially looks quite promising, so that's back in the on position. Obviously the very, very quick way of testing that it is on is by pushing this down, which tells us on. I'm going to flush the chain. Make sure all the water flushes down the pan. So that's filling up fine, so we know the water's going through, so we're just really testing to see if there's any more drips there. That looks to have solved it. So once again, the water's just going up there into the float valve, and once the water gets to a certain level, it will raise this, which will engage and stop it. We'll just watch to make sure the water's going to do that, and make sure that the float valve is working effectively. It's starting to rise now. That's done. Double check. What I do like to do just at this point as well is just get a little dry piece of tissue and just wipe it around everything. And then we just test the tissue to see if there's any moisture on there. But that's done the trick. There we go. Job done. Okay, that's about it from me. Thank you very much for watching. If you could please leave a thumbs up in the comments below. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. We'll be doing lots more of these plumbing tutorials. Until next time, thank you very much for watching.